All right. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night, guys. It is so nice to be on again. Um, and not been on for quite some time. And Annie is on. Hello, Annie. How are you? Um, I know it will take some time for us to build back our momentum. So I'm gonna ask you just to share the few. Cynthia is here. Happy Sunday, Cynthia. It's good to have you. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what I've been doing and what's been happening, uh, where I've been, that type of thing. But it's good to be on. Just send the live out to some persons, let them know that we are on, and we'll be doing our review show tonight. We'll be doing a review show of what we did today. So today we started back brand new. And apologize for last week. We started a brand new season. Last week I didn't get a chance to do a review for last week. I'll have to do that maybe some other time. Um, but I'm excited. Last week we did a video of none such, and next week hopefully we'll be doing part two of that. Today video was based on where I grew up in Lilliput. And I like the fact that we featured some herbs there because some of the herbs there are not pretty much found here in Lilliput. So it was nice that we had that session in Lilliput because we saw some herbs there that don't grow here so much. Um, and so we wanna review the herbs. Let me know if you have any questions as it relates to the herbs that were featured today. I'm trying to get the video to add to be able to show you the video. Um, yeah, I do have it. Yes, I do have it. So let me just get that video file so that we can go through it and talk about each plant as we go through each of them. All right, we're gonna talk about each plant as we go through the video. Talk about the medicinal benefit of each plant. Talk about how it is used and how you can, you know, utilize it for yourself. Um, this week, or rather this month, should I say this month? I plan to, for this season rather, I plan to feature as much diversity as is possible. And my goal, we're going to see how many plants. We're going to see how many plants. Good night, Ivan. We're going to see how many plants we can cover this month. So what I want to say to you is you may want to get a notepad, um, or I recommend that you get a book or something of that nature because I want you to have, each of these um, at the end of
Hey guys, morning. Welcome to another edition of 60 Minutes.
All right, so I want you to have we call it a herb journal of all the plants, of all the medicinal benefits, of all the medicinal benefits of each plant. And so once you have a health issue, the goal is for you to have a go-to book that you can go to, that you can run to. All right. So that's the goal. It's for you to have a go-to book or a go-to manual that you can go to and quickly be able to find what you're looking for. In other words, the plants around us are nature's pharmacy. And what I've done is I try to video plants in a particular community or in a particular yard. Because a lot of times what I've found is that the medicines that persons need is found right there in their yard. All right. So Cynthia B says I have one. Good. So let's see how many new herbs you can learn in the next 3 months. A season is about 3 months, and I'm trying my utmost. I have footages that I've recorded ahead of time because my schedule is very busy, and sometimes I can't keep my recording schedule. So I've already recorded footage ahead of time. So I wanted to see how many plants you can um, learn over this season 3. How many plants you can learn? How many medicinal plants you can identify? All right, and then basically the goal is for you to be able to see them, identify them, and to know about their medicinal benefits. All right, so what I plan to do is to go back through the video and then pause on each plant and then talk about the medicinal benefits. So usually when I do the herb walk, the goal is just to at that time help you to identify the plants. And then I want persons to join me because this is the closest that I'm going to come to an actual herb walk where we actually walk and talk about the medicinal benefits of plants. So the goal is for you to join me on the video, and then guess what? We can stop and we can talk about each plant. We can talk about the medicinal benefits, and if you want, we can talk about how to use them. Um, we have um, we have what is called the International Guild of Indigenous Caribbean Medicine, the International Guild of Indigenous Caribbean Medicine, and I'll talk about that next week more. Hopefully, I will have uh, the secretary, the person that's in charge of the International Guild of Indigenous Caribbean Medicine, on. We'll talk about that and what it's set up for, what it's aimed for. Because as I said, my goal is to see um, indigenous Caribbean medicine, a medicine um, fully developed from the region of the Caribbean, predominantly for people of Caribbean and African ethnicity. Um, and I mean for all mankind, but primarily for persons of Caribbean and Afro Caribbean ethnicity. And so, because of that, I've created what is called the International Guild of Indigenous Caribbean Medicine, and that basically is a herbal guild that I'm hoping that will be the repository of I will have the responsibility of protecting the knowledge, of preserving the knowledge, and of transferring the knowledge for generations to come. And so, uh, when we talk about it next week, you'll hear how you can get a part to be a chance to be a part of it, and what are the things that we are going to be involved in as a herbal guild. But the goal is to get the knowledge out there, and the goal out there is a shared person. So on that particular platform, on the International Guild of Indigenous Caribbean Medicine, we are going to be having a seminar every month. And so one of the first seminars that we have, um, uh, we will be talking about um, how to use herbs. So in this presentation, which is it's I believe that as much as possible, the knowledge should be free. But we do have a school, so we have some persons who pay, and so some of the knowledge, persons will have to pay a small fee to have access to that knowledge. But part of what I want to discuss in that upcoming seminar this month is going to be how to prepare medicines. So on this platform, we talk about how to identify it. We talk about the medicinal uses, but we don't go very deep into how to prepare it, and we don't talk about what are the different modalities, because herbs can be applied either as decoctions, infusions. They can be applied as tinctures. They can be applied as teas. They can be applied as poultices. I mean, there are so many different modalities. There are different modes of applying herbs depending on the particular need. So for that seminar, I'm going to be talking about uh, not just the medicinal uses of herbs, but how to use herbs. And we'll go into determining the best way to use a particular herb. So, for example, every herb has what is called water, oil, and alcohol. Water, oil, and alcohol. And depending on the herb, some herbs are more alcohol based, some herbs are more water based, some herbs are more oil based. So, for example, like mints. Mints tend to be more either alcohol based or oil based, which is why mints tend to vaporize. You know, when you get a mint, a peppermint, a black mint, whatever the mint is, when you get that mint and crush it, the sap that comes out, if you put that sap on your hand, you will notice that the sap evaporates very quickly. It's because it's an alcohol based. A lot of the active ingredients are alcohol based, and so that is telling us one of the best ways of preserving, or one of the best modes of delivering those plants is through alcohols. So that's an example of determining the best modality. When is it best for you to make a herbal oil or herbal tincture or a tea, or to take it as a salve. We'll talk about that. All right, in our upcoming seminar, latter part of this month. So that's basically how I intend to go forward in helping persons and in educating persons. All right. So in tonight's presentation, I'm not going to ramble for too long because we have quite a number of plans to go through. So I'm going to go ahead and play the video, and then we're going to stop and talk about each plant. I might, speed up the video so that we can go to the respective plant that we want to talk about. All right, so let's go.
With Mother Nature. So I'm at my mother's house here in Lilliput, Montego Bay. And so this is where, I pretty much grew up. And the soil here, the soil type here, the temperature here is very different from what I'm accustomed to in Portland and St. Thomas. And so I wanted to use the opportunity to show, identify. I'm going to try my utmost best. I'm almost always tempted to talk about the medicinal benefits of this plant, but I don't want to do that white. So that's
all right. So I'm trying to speed up, guys, just to find exactly
that is very
where the plants are.
Here. And this plant,
all right, so the first plant that I want to talk about, hold on.
yeah.
All right, so this is not working out. So what I'm gonna do is see if I can get a picture of the plant and post it up, and then we can talk about the medicinal benefits of this particular plant. So the first plant that we want to look on is what I call the Santa Maria feverfew. Let me see if I can add it to the screen. And this week it might be a little shaky. Next week I'll have somebody to help me with these technical production issues so that I can focus more on presenting. Just give me a minute, guys. So it's slightly bitter, and that gives us a see there's lots of it. It's slightly bitter. I'm gonna take the chance to taste it because it's actually raining. I have to wait for the rain to subside to actually come out here. So I'm gonna taste one of these and tell you what it tastes like. All right, let's see it here. So, yeah, so it's slightly bitter, and that gives us a hint as to the medicinal use. This was a plant that my grandmother used on me when I had a particular. All right, so the plant that the plant number one is what we call the Santa Maria feverfew. So it's that plant that has those little things that look like cabbage. All right, it looks like cabbage, and it's very bitter. Let me see if I can bring it up here. Image file. So it's slightly, well, yeah, it's slightly bitter. So it's not fragrant bitter. It's slightly bitter, and it is very easy to identify because it grows a lot in most yards. I'm trying to find a picture of it to put up. Trying to find a picture of it to put up. Nah. Alright, so it's sometimes referred to as ragweed, and or they call it Congress grass. That's what the name that it has. And it's very invasive. It's found in a lot of yards, and it is used medicinally in a number of Caribbean islands. It's used in Central and South America. It's used in India, and it's also used in Africa. Now, as I was saying in the video, I got the first time I was exposed to this herb was as a child when I picked up um was it measles? Yes, it was measles. So I had measles, and when I had measles, um, my grandmother, my grandmother gave me a bath in it, and so in a very short period of time, um, the measles went, and so this was the first time I was exposed to this particular herb, and it's antibacterial. Trying to find it. Trying to add it to the screen. Hold on. Um, all right. Should be here now. Oh, here it is. All right, so this is what it looks like. Santa Maria Fever Few. For those who may not have seen the video today, um, that's what it looks like. Santa Maria Fever Few. All right. It's also called ragweed, and it's antibacterial. It's anti-inflammatory, so it's used traditionally to relieve pain, body aches, and inflammatory conditions like arthritis. So traditionally, persons used to make it into a tea. So what my grandmother did was that she made it into a tea, and then after she made it into a tea, she added it to, or she diluted it to cold water, and then gave me a bath, and then she allowed me to stand up in the sun for a couple of minutes for the medicine to dry and to be absorbed into the body. So you can make, for persons who are having so traditionally for persons who had arthritis, for persons who had inflammatory conditions, they would apply it topically to the skin. It was also applied topically for skin inflammation, so rashes and swelling. So you could actually get the herb, also the green herb, you could beat it into a poultice, and then you could apply it to wherever there was a rash or wherever there was a swelling. So for persons who had knee issues, they used to get the herb, which is this herb, the Santa Maria Fever Few. They used to get the herb, then they would beat it into a poultice, and then they would apply it to the joint areas. So a person who had, as I said, arthritis, for persons who had sprain, for persons who had damaged any part of themselves, they would get this herb, Santa Maria Fever Few, or they call it ragweed, and it could be applied for conditions just like that. It's because it's also antimicrobial and anti-parasitic. It's used as a natural remedy for infections caused by bacteria, fungi, and parasites. And so they would also make a decoction, which is when we talk about a decoction, what they would do is, as I said, they would boil the water and pour it over the dry herb, and then they would allow it to steep, and then they would take that decoction, and they would strain it, and it was also used as a means of cleansing wounds. So for persons who had wounds that potentially had a difficult time getting better, then it was a plant that could be used like this. Tonight, I want to talk about a herb. Tonight, if you're just joining us, I wanted to tell somebody about a herb that was traditionally used for diabetes. This is a plant that was used And one of the potential side effects is that it can lower your blood sugar, can drop your blood sugar so low that it can hurt you. So we're gonna be looking at that plant tonight. So you know of anybody, and also these were plants that were found in the Lilliput area. So if you know of anybody who is in the Lilliput area, then all of these plants are available in the Lilliput area. And so persons in the Lilliput, St. James, Montego Bay, Jamaica area, then they are right in the neck of the woods where they can find these plants. And so whenever we do our herb walk, we also want to, plants tell us to some extent, plants tell us about the ailments in that particular area. So at the end of the show, I want you to take notes. I want Cynthia to help me, and I want Yvonne to help me. Cynthia, I want you to help me by writing down the medicinal benefits of these plants, because when we at the end of the program, we want to take a like an overarching look to see which plant is repeatedly deals with a particular ailment. All right, and then that gives us an idea. So if we deal with 10 plants and all 10 of them, for example, deals with diabetes, it means that diabetes is one of the high incident in that particular area. Because what happened is that how plants grow, plants have, and you'll see it too. After we find the plants that repeat themselves in our walk, after we find those plants that consistently repeat themselves, then we look at the medicinal uses of those plants. And that's how it tells us what are the potentially common ailments in that particular area. So we look at the plants that repeat themselves naturally. We write them down. So there are many plants. So there's maybe 20, 30 plants. We don't pay attention to all 20 or 30. Yes, it's good to know all the plants that are there. But what we do is we pay attention to those plants that keep on repeating themselves. So for example, after every 3 plant you seed, after every 4 plant you seed, after every 3 plant you seed, those plants that keep on repeating themselves, those are the plants we pay attention to. So we take those plants out, right? After we single those plants out, then what we do is we look at the medicinal uses of those plants, and then that tells us potentially what are the common ailments in that particular area. All right, Cynthia, let me know if you're up for it. All right, Yvonne, let me know if you're up for it, if you can help me with that. All right. So the first plant we're looking on is the Santa Maria feverfew. And as I said, these are plants that I'm looking at in Lilliput. I was in Lilliput. So the herb walk, this particular herb walk, was based on herbs that we were looking at in Lilliput. I also wanted to show persons that you don't have to be in a forest or the bush to basically be able to identify the herbs. Wherever you are, you want to identify the herbs that are around you. All right. So let's go back to looking at our feverfew. Another benefit of feverfew is that it has fever management capabilities. It was traditionally used to reduce fever, similar to the feverfew that we know. All right, so the feverfew that we know is Tanacetum parthenium, which is the official feverfew. So this Santa Maria feverfew is used similarly, or it has similar capabilities of reducing fever. So herbal infusions are prepared uh, like for issues like malaria or flu. All right, so you could just make a infusion from it, and you could just bathe the person, give the person a bath. It also had respiratory health benefits. It's used in some healing systems. It's used for asthma, and it's used for bronchitis, and it's used for colds. That is how powerful this herb is. But what we want to focus on is its primary function. It's antibacterial, antiparasitic, and it's antiviral. So it has a wide range of uses as it relates to ailments that are of a bacterial or viral or fungal nature. Right? It has we spoke about the fact that the crushed leaves can be applied to cuts, wounds, and insect bites. because they also help in accelerating the healing process, and they are used for some in some parts of the world. It's used for issues like eczema and dermatitis. So it has that fever um, management benefit as well. It also has digestive health benefits. It's used to relieve stomach upset. It's used to relieve bloating and indigestion, and it also acts as a mild laxative. All right, also acts as a mild laxative. That's a Maria fever fuel. And in some circles, I know of this. It is also used to regulate menstrual cycle by easing menstrual pain. Let me show you, women. This is a plant that has traditionally it was used for helping to ease menstrual pain. Traditionally, you would use it. Yes. Um, Kaula says, "Good night. That what's the best herb for gas and bloating due to IBS, inflammatory bowel syndrome." Um, no, inflammatory bowel syndrome. I don't know where in the world you are, Cola, but there are. I don't know if I should say it because since lately they've been um, censoring so many of my videos on YouTube, but one of the best herbs is bay leaf, right? Bay leaf and ginger. So you combine bay leaf and ginger, and it's a very good herb for the stomach. All right. All right. So let's see if we can finish up um, this particular herb. Has so many benefits and so many uses. So yeah. So it's used for menstrual issues, for healing menstrual pain. All right. That's the Santa Maria fever fuel. All right, let me see if we can go on to our next plant number 2. Plant number 2. All right, so this is plant number 2, and this beautiful plant that you're looking at. Hold on. Let me see if I can get a better shot of it. This beautiful plant. Next week I'm gonna use some still pictures instead of the video, so that persons can have a better view. Because the video is playing, but it's sticking, and it's not easy for me to find where the it's not easy for me to find the image of the plant in the video. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to use pictures instead, because some persons are actually. Oh, there it is. All right, so there it is. So that's it. The Mexican poppy, and I'm going to break a piece of the plant to show you what the latex looks like. Right? So that yellow sap, that you're seeing has medicinal benefits. All right? That yellow sap that you're seeing, it has medicinal benefit. And this particular plant is, as the name implies, it's called Mexican poppy. Hi, Dion. How are you doing? So it's called Mexican poppy, and it is called prickly poppy in some parts of the world. Um, and it is used in a number of traditional healing systems and practices across the Caribbean, Central and South America. It's used in Africa, and it's also used in India. And this plant is known for its bright yellow flowers, its prickly leaves, and of course its latex stain. The plant typically tends to grow up right after you clear, right after land clearing, and so it's not something that you'll find, or sometimes when you cut down property, when you get like a bulldozer to come in and clear the land. Once the land is clean, then you'll usually find the Mexican poppy coming up. One of the first benefit of this plant is its skin and wound healing properties. And so, funny enough, the yellow latex um, is applied to cuts and wounds and skin infections to prevent infections. Right? So you can put that yellow sap on small wounds or burns, and it prevents the wound from developing any type of infection. It's also used traditionally for eczema. It's used for scabies. It's used for ringworm, and it's traditionally used for other fungal infections. So, whenever a child had any of these type of skin conditions, they would just get the Mexican poppy, break it, get the latex out, that sap, and they would apply it to the affected area, and it would help to resolve the issue. It's also applied to warts and corns to dissolve them. Right? So if you know of anybody who has warts or corns, you can get this plant, and you can get the sap, and you can apply it, and what it will do is that it will help to dissolve, because it has what we call proteolytic enzymic properties. So it has the ability to break down protein matter. Right? Has the ability to break down protein matter. So this is an excellent herb for naturally getting rid of warts, um, or skin tags. So it's traditionally used for getting rid of skin tags. And so you could just, the uses for eczema, the uses for skin conditions like those are many. And so you could use it for that purpose, and it would definitely help. All right? Let me just show for those persons who are coming on. So that's the Mexican poppy. All right? This is another image of it. That's the Mexican poppy. And not only is the latex good, not only does it have skin healing properties, but it is also a natural painkiller. So it offers pain relief, and it is anti-inflammatory. If you look on the flower, if you look on the flower, if you look on the plant itself, what you notice is that it looks like the poppy that they get cocaine from. Right? It looks and even before this flower opens, the flower looks very similar to the poppy plant that opium or cocaine is derived from. And it has some chemicals in it that work similar, some opioids, they call them opioids, family of chemicals. So it has opioids in it similar to those found in opium that causes it to have anti-inflammatory and pain-killing properties. All right, anybody ever see this plant yet? Mexican poppy. So Decoctions and infusions are used for headaches. So persons make teas from it, or traditionally they would make teas from it for persons who are having headaches or arthritic pain or rheumatism pain or muscle pain or joint pain. They would make tea from it, and it would help to ease the pain. Also, it's a mild sedative, so it also helps not only with pain but discomfort. So just imagine somebody who is having issues sleeping. As I said, this herb has not only sedatives in it, but it has opioids in it. It has chemicals in it that are similar to the one found in opium or the poppy plant, right? That we get cocaine from. So it helps with pain, relieving pain, and it helps with sleeping. So for persons who had issues like headaches, for persons who had muscle pain, for persons who had joint pain, for persons who had arthritis and rheumatism, then this was a plant that they would use, and they still use it in places like Mexico a lot for those particular conditions. Um, so not only is it good as for the skin, not only is it good for pain and inflammation or as a mild sedative, but this plant is also good for, and I shouldn't say, maybe I should start, um, those who have been watching for some time would know, because by looking at the plant, let me bring it up again. The two most dominant feature, the two most dominant feature about this plant is telling you what? Let me get you guys to participate. The two most dominant feature about this plant, or what are the two most dominant feature about this plant? When you look at this plant, what are the two most dominant feature? Cola, Cynthia, Diane, just type it in the description. Oh, Cynthia, you let the cat out the bag, man. Cynthia says liver health. Right. But what are the two most dominant feature about this plant? We're gonna share it how Cynthia knows that it's good for liver health. What are the two most dominant feature about this plant? Very good, Cynthia. It's prickly and it has yellow flower. So maybe I'm gonna stop asking Cynthia, because Cynthia has been paying attention from our previous seasons. Now, most plants that are prickly, that grows thorn, because plants tell us what they do, you know. Most plants that are prickly and that have thorn are good for pain. Usually good for pain. There are exceptions, but normally they are good for pain. And normally most plants that have a yellow flower is good for the kidney. All right. So this plant is not only good for the kidney, but it's also good for the liver. So it is an excellent medicine for liver health. So it's typically used in traditional medicine to detoxify the liver, and it's also used to treat jaundice. All right. Um, the small doses of the latex is also purgative, or it's a laxative, so it also helps with constipation. So this plant is a very powerful plant, and usually you see it coming up after the land is cleared, right? After the land is cleared, you see it's coming up similar to plants like jokoto. So there are certain plants that come up after the land is cleared. They don't typically grow and compete with other plants. All right, so these herbs are pretty good for the liver. All right, it is used to treat stomach pain. It is used for indigestion, and it's also used for intestinal parasites. All right, so those are some of the benefits of the Mexican prickly poppy. All right, that's the Mexican prickly poppy. But guys, it doesn't end there. There are other benefits. So it also has what we call respiratory health benefits. So when you make infusions from the leaves, it can be used for asthma, it can be used for coughs, and it can be used for bronchitis. All right. So the leaves can be used in that manner. And as we said, because it's antibacterial, the plant is an excellent plant to use against, or it has been traditionally used against malaria, fever, and bacterial infections. And there are some traditional healers who use it to purify the blood. All right, so they use it for a number of STDs. So a number of benefits from this plant here, the Mexican poppy. But here's another use of it. It's used for reproductive and urinary health. So it's used in folk medicine for irregular menstruation and as a treatment for urinary infections. Right? So we see the yellow flower. We know that it's good for the urinary tract system, and it is sometimes used as a contraceptive. So for persons who don't want to get pregnant, then it was used for that as well. All right. Any question before we move on to next plant? Any question before we move on to the next plant? Now, the next plant that we're going to be looking at is a plant that a lot of young ladies need to know. A lot of young ladies need to know this particular plant. And I'm going to tell you why they need to know this particular plant. The plant we're going to be looking at next is a plant that's very good for menstrual cramps. Right? It's very good for menstrual cramps. And it's a plant that comes from the Vervain family. Comes from the Vervain family. And it helps a lot with menstrual pain. Helps a lot with menstrual pain. And so this is a herb that would be a lady's best friend. This plant that I'm going to bring up, hold on, is a herb for young women who are having menstrual issues. And again, this is a herb that grows in a lot of yards. Here it is. Anybody know this herb? Hey Carlton, how you doing? Blessings, man. Nice to have you. Anybody know this herb? This herb is usually used along with Vervain. Women who used to there's a branch of natural medicine that was earmarked for women. All right, and this is something that I would love to see. We live in a society now where we have lost so much of our culture. As I said, indigenous Caribbean medicine. All right, I said Cynthia again, cat's tongue. Wonderful. And there were different, so let me have medical doctors, you have nurses. Well, in natural medicine, there are different types of practitioners within natural medicine. So there were natural medicine personnel that specialize in, like, for example, bone health. But then there were natural medicine practitioners who specialize in sexual health. So they would know the herbs for male sexual health as well as female sexual health. But then there was another branch of herbalists, and these were predominantly or exclusively women. These were the women that were midwives. Their job was to know the herbs that focused on the female reproductive system. So they would know what herbs to take after giving birth, and they would know what herbs to take prior to giving birth to help the birthing process to become an easy process. And so a lot of these herbs, so for example, there are herbs that help to release oxytocin, which helps with uterine contractions, that helps to ease the pain and stress during the birthing process. Because, we have been taught now that giving birth is an emergency. Um, Giving birth has become an emergency condition. No, when you go to the toilet to do number one and to do number two, when you give birth, it's pretty much the same. It's a natural. Animals give birth naturally, except for those animals that are domesticated. They take them to vets, but animals give birth naturally, and so having birth or having a child is supposed to be a natural experience. And so these women would know what herbs to take prior to giving birth. They would know what herbs to take not to get pregnant. And to some extent, they would know what herbs to take if persons want to terminate pregnancy. Not that we're encouraging it, but they still would know. Right? And that knowledge has been lost. So a lot of the young women now who have issues with menstrual cramps or polycystic ovarian syndrome or blocked tubes or endometriosis, all of these conditions would have been resolved by the midwife in a traditional setting. And so that traditional practitioner, that traditional midwife, would know what herbs to take. So this is one of the herbs that would be well known by those midwives. This is a herb called cat's tongue. All right? Or in Jamaica, they call it fasten pan coat. And it's also used in South and Central America. It's used in Africa, and it's used in parts of Asia. So the herb, as I said, is related to the verbena family, and it has microbial benefits. One of its most noted use is the fact that it is traditionally used to reduce fever, especially in cases of malaria or flu. So if you know of somebody who, if there was somebody who had malaria or flu, this is one of the herbs that would have been made into a tea and it would be given to those persons. Another feature of this herb is that it is a well noted natural immune booster. And so it helps in fighting infections. Right? It's known in fighting infection. All right, Joan says, hi, Doc. Um, do you know of any herb that can help when you have trash? Yes. Um, yes, Joan. Because when you have trash, or thrush, as we call it, is just another name for yeast infection. All right? So typically, when you have thrush, it's a type of yeast infection. And so what is happening is that when you have yeast, what it means is that there is an imbalance in the good and the bad bacteria in the gut. So the gut biome is not healthy, right? And let me talk about some ways that you can improve the gut biome. Is by just increasing probiotic foods or by increasing what we call fermented foods. Because fermented foods is bacteria, you know. So when you get like your vinegar and you get your onion, you get your garlic, and then you add your other vegetables to it, and you make sure that it's submerged before the vinegar. You put it on for a week or two. What you have just created is what we call a natural probiotic. So a natural remedy for thrush is by eating that probiotic, right? Getting that probiotic. All right, all right. Jeremy says, Doc, new subscriber, like live your videos. Does your program teach how to make roots tonic like them Rastafari? Of course, of course. And because yeah, so but on one of our and please remind me, Jeremy, because on one of our IGICM seminars, I'm gonna teach that. I'm gonna teach persons how to make a tonic. I'm gonna teach persons how to make a tonic because it's not just um boiling the roots or boiling the herbs, because and that's what I'm saying. On this platform, I'm talking about. So the goal is to help persons to identify the herbs, one, and then two, it is to talk about the medicinal benefits of the herbs. So I'm doing two things. One, I'm helping persons to identify the herbs, and two, I'm talking about the medicinal benefits. That's free knowledge, absolutely free. All right, I see your question, Carlton. So that's absolutely free knowledge. But um, we have a school, Boston Institute of Natural Medicine, and next week I'm going to be talking more about the Boston Institute. I'm going to be talking about the IGM, the International Guild of Indigenous Caribbean Medicine, how they overlap but how they differ, how they overlap but how they differ, and how you can benefit from all of them. So I believe that what I'm doing should be free, right? So I believe everybody should be able to identify their medicines. Everybody should be able to identify their medicines in the wild, right? And then everybody should know the medicinal benefits. But once you start to talk about how to use those plants, we're talking about um, uh, becoming more skillful. So for that knowledge, we have programs that we can put persons into where we can show persons how to do that. Right? So, for example, I talk about herbs. When you're making a medicine, so the medicine has 5 different herbs. Sometimes not all 5 is combined at the same time. So some herbs, depending on what you want from the herbs, some herbs are combined at the first part of the process. Then, for example, at the second part of the process, certain herbs are applied. Let me get an example, and then go back to because that was a good question that I believed it needed more clarification. So, for example, you're making a medicine that has 5 ingredients, but of the 5 ingredients, 3 of them are barks, and 2 of them are leaves. Good? 5 ingredients. You're going to make a medicine with 5 ingredients. 3 of them are barks, 2 of them are leaves. You don't add all the barks and the leaves at the same time, because the medicine in the barks have to be boiled, but the medicines in the leaves are infused or they are steeped. So that's also give you an idea as to how the skill that goes into making a medicine. So some ingredients are added at different parts of the medicine making process. Not all the ingredients are added. And that's why I can talk like this, because it's not just to know the plants, it's not just to know the medicinal uses of plants. It really boils down to, that's important, but it's really boils down to how to combine them. Because if you know all the medicines and if you don't know how to combine them, you're not going to get the same benefits. And then there is, of course, the best way for that medicine to be delivered. Some medicines are best delivered as teas, some are best delivered as tinctures, some are best delivered as infusions, decoctions. I mean, that is why I have to have a class just for that. But in this session, my goal is to help persons to identify plants in the wild, and then secondly to know the medicinal uses of the plants. All right, how to make them into medicines are total different kettle of fish. All right, that we're not going to get to in this session. And then there's the whole aspect of dosage, how to take it for it to be effective. So how to combine it and how to take it for it to be effective. Those are the things that persons will have to be in the will have to be a part of the class to learn more about. All right. So again, this is the cat's tongue. This is the cat's tongue, and we spoke about the um, not only its benefit as a plant that helps with uh, boosting the immune system, but the fact that it helps to fight ailments as malaria and flu. It also has digestive health and detoxification benefits. It's used as a mild laxative to relieve constipation, and it helps to stimulate opening up the appetite and soothing stomach pain. So it's also a very good blood purifier, all right? And it's also anti-inflammatory. It's used to reduce joint pain, muscle aches, arthritis, but to a lesser extent. So, I mean, I wouldn't use it because we spoke about other plants, like, for example, the Mexican poppy would be a far more powerful plant for inflammation than cat's tongue, but it would help to a lesser extent. So if I was making a formula, I would not include cat's tongue as a herb of choice for inflammation. It would be far way down on my list of plants that I would use. But it does have that ability as well. It does have anti-inflammatory, and it does have pain relieving properties as well. It's also used to treat coughs, asthma, and bronchitis. So it has expectorant um, capabilities, which means it helps to clear mucus from the lungs. Right? That's how powerful this plant is. It's also used to help heal wounds, boils, and skin infection. And again, these are to lesser extent. It's used for eczema, rashes, and insect bites. Um, it has that ability as well. What it is known for, what it is, I would use it in a formula for, in a major way, is to regulate menstruation and menstrual cramps. So if a woman has menstrual cramps or if she's having irregular menstrual flow, this plant was traditionally, this was one of the primary plants that was used along with herbs like dog blood and vervain for menstrual disorder, right? I'd love to get some feedback maybe from some of these persons, but I've shared this herb with so many young women, and you take it 5 days before your period, and they would take it and they wouldn't have the discomfort that they usually would have when they're going into their menstrual cycle. So this plant is at the top of my list as it relates to dealing with menstrual disorders. As I said, it's known to have bacterial, fungal, and anti-parasitic functions, and so it's sometimes used in some communities for intestinal worms. Right? It's sometimes used for intestinal worms. That's the cat's tongue. All right, so we're looking at the cat's tongue. What I said to the person, too much of anything is not good. So excessive consumption may cause digestive upset, and usually, this is one of the ways how plants talk to us. Usually, when you take a particular plant and you're having a digestive upset, that's one way of the body, the plant or the body telling you that you've had too much. So if you take a particular plant for a protracted period of time and it starts to upset your stomach, it means that there's a lot of that plant chemical in your system. So you may need to give it a break. All right. Let's move on to our next plant. And this is a plant that a lot of persons don't know. I was shocked when I remember telling some persons about this plant. Um, and when I told about the plant, one guy, one young man, he went and he took it and he made he blended it along with some other herbs, and he said that it worked wonders for him as an aphrodisiac. Right? He said that it worked wonders for him as an aphrodisiac, and there's no wonder because it helps. This herb helps in circulation, and it helps in uh, thinning the blood. So this herb that we're gonna look at now, is a herb. Is herb number 3. So we've looked at about 2 herbs so far. This is herb number 3, and I was in Florida, so I know it grows a lot of places. It's found in a lot of places, and it's very invasive. But it can also be used as a vegetable. Can be used as a vegetable, and its other cousins are mostly known. This is a herb. Let me see how many persons watch the video. Which herb is this one? Herb number 3. Herb number 3. Cynthia, you can say Cynthia. Herb number 3. We looked at it today. So these herbs that we're looking at, if you're just joining us, these herbs that we're looking at were actually in our video today, in our herb walk video. So every Sunday at 3 o'clock, we put out a video helping persons to identify herbs in the wild, and then we do a live at 7 or 8, sorry, helping persons to know the medicinal uses. Right, Cynthia? This, of course, is the pepperweed, roadside pepperweed. I have some right outside in my yard right now. Roadside pepperweed. Now, the roadside pepperweed is a herb that is from the brassica family or the mustard family. So it works very similar like mustard by helping with movement. So it's used a lot, but not a lot of persons know it. But it's used in a lot of traditional medicine. But its usage is not so documented, and so I'm glad that we're featuring it because hopefully this is a herb that a lot of persons will come to know. Because I don't believe it has gotten the respect that other herbs in the same mustard family have gotten. Herbs like garden cress, um, and cabbage, pak choy, all of those herbs are from the brassica family. All right, and so this herb is very powerful for the respiratory system. So it's used to relieve coughs, bronchitis, and asthma. So one of the ways that this herb was used is that you can get the roadside pepperweed. You can get it green. You can macerate it, and then in a cloth, put it in a cloth and beat it up. And then you can rest it on the person's stomach. And what it does is that it helps to break up all the phlegm and all the mucus that is there. All right? Or you can add a little oil to it. Add a little oil. When you're macerating it, add a little oil to it and just macerate it in a cloth and then put it on the stomach, and then what it does is that it drives a lot of heat inside the stomach, right? It also can be used for arthritis, because it has heat in it. So it acts as as an expectorant, helping to clear mucus from the lungs. You can also take it as a tea, as an infusion. So not only can you use it green, you can also use it dry as an infusion, and it helps to break up mucus. Um, because it's a stomach ache, it also stimulates digestion. So it's good for bloating and it's good for gas, and it's also good for intestinal poisoning. Intestinal parasites and food poisoning. It's very peppery, so when you take it, it has a pungent. It's actually a pungent herb, right? Mustard. It's from the mustard. So it's a um, pungent abilities to it. Um, it's also a diuretic and a kidney medicine. So it's used to encourage urine flow, and for persons who are having kidney issues, this herb, the potential has been used for the kidney, and by extension, it's used for urinary tract infections. Um, so I mean, a number of benefits. As I said, this herb is so under respected that it's not funny. Let me just put it up back. This herb is so under respected that it's not funny. So it's used for a number of ailments, including urinary tract infection and helping to get the flow. So it also used because of diuretic. It helps. It's good for edema. Persons who are having swelling in their lower extremities, it's good for that. The leaves and the seeds may be used to relieve muscle pain, joint pain, and inflammation. So you can beat it into a poultice, and you can apply it for areas where there are arthritis. And I mean, it works so fast. Anybody who is watching this, whether you're watching this live or watching this as a recording, if you are feeling pain tonight, I want you to get up and look in your yard, and I want you to come back and tell me if you see this plant in your yard, because a lot of you are having joint pain. A lot of you, or if you know, if you're watching this tonight, if you have an aunt or an uncle, all these plants that I'm featuring were in Lilliput, but they're also I was in Florida. I was in the Palm Beach area, and I was walking on the road, and I saw tons of it. I mean, they were so. I didn't take a picture, but they were so big and luscious. So you can take this plant. I think I have some in the dryer right now. Hold on, let me take my wife to just take it out. Yeah, I have some in the dryer. Just give me 1 minute. Let me go and get some. Let me show you. All right, so look at this, guys. You can see it. So this is the pepper weed. So a whole bunch that I harvested yesterday, and I've just dried it. So it's right now so dehydrated. Right after this recording, I'm going to process it, because we use it also in one of our formulation for persons who are having low iron. By the way, it's very high in vitamin C. So we add it to one of our tinctures. So I can show it to you better. Right. So this is roadside pepperweed, and this is what it looks like. All right, sorry about that. I had to put it back in the dryer. So just to show you that this is a herb that we use a lot. It's high in a vitamin C, so we use it with another in a particular formula for persons who have difficulty with anemia or don't have enough iron. Right. So that's a powerful plant for that. Um, it's also powerful for boosting the immune system. So it's what we call a febrifuge. So it helps to reduce fever. In some folk medicine traditions, it has been used to support the immune system against infection. As I said to you before, that it has what we call aphrodisiac and reproductive health properties. So similar to other plants in the Lepidium species, it has been traditionally associated with libido enhancement and hormonal balance. Um, and it's also used for regulating um, menstrual problems as well as helping to support persons who who want to get pregnant. So roadside pepperweed is again. I hope that from tonight's show, persons will um, this plant will get some more attention. I believe it needs to be used in a lot more formulations because it has just so many benefits. It's for example, it's just its vitamin C benefit. Most time, we use vitamin C in plants in formulation to help the body with um, absorption. So not only is it high in vitamin C, but it's also a pungent herb, so it helps in circulation. So it helps with getting the other medicines circulating in your body, and it also helps the body in absorbing those other medicines. So it's a very powerful herb, and it has so many benefits. As I said, it fights viral, fungal, and antibacterial issues. And so, even for persons who are having for wound care, it can be used to offer wound care by washing wounds. As I, it's on the mustard family, so it's very powerful. Now, because it's also from the mustard family, you have to be careful in terms of how much of it you use, because it can be irritating to the stomach if it is used in in high dosages. Any questions so far, guys? Any questions? Any questions so far? Anybody have any questions? You can go ahead and ask your questions. I believe that's plant number 4. Um, let's move on to plant number 5. And plant number 5 is a herb that it on this particular herb walk. This herb was not seen repeating itself a lot, but it was a herb that I believed needed. It was present, and so it needed to be highlighted because this is another herb that again um, is used so much traditionally. It's used for a number of ailments, and especially for men, it's used a lot. Um, and even for women, it's used a lot. So I wanted to look on this herb or feature this herb in the herb walk, even though it was one of those herbs that was repeating itself a lot. Right? It wasn't one of those herbs that was repeating itself a lot. But I wanted to feature it because a lot of persons who have prostate issues and even belly ache issues benefit from this herb. So it's called the belly ache bush. Right? It's called the belly ache bush. This is it. We call it cassava marble. Right? We call it cassava marble. Anybody here know cassava marble? Anybody knows cassava marble? Or they call it bellyache bush? It's used widely in, again, Central and South America, Africa, India, and it's mostly known for three major properties. One, it's anti-inflammatory property. Two, it's antimicrobial, and then number three, it's purgative properties. Um, it contains some toxic compounds. Want to highlight that. So one has to be very careful. All right, Cynthia, you don't know this one. All right, so this is cassava marble. Right. Carlton says no, but it looks like a prostate for real. Yes. So it's used for prostate, enlarged prostate. Right. It's one of the major ingredients that's used for enlarged prostate, and I wanted to highlight that because I know that it's one of the issues that affect us a lot. The latex and leaves are traditionally used as a strong laxative to relieve constipation. So it's called bellyache bush because when people have stomach issues, this is one of the herbs that they use. So in small doses, it's boiled, it's made into a decoction, and it's used for stomach pain and bloating. All right? It's used in some cultures also for intestinal parasite expulsion. So that's the reason why it's called bellyache bush, right? Because it's used for a number of gastrointestinal issues. But as you're going to see tonight, it has a number of other benefits. The crushed leaves are applied to cuts, wounds, boils, and ulcers to promote healing. So it helps with that. The latex, which is the juice or the stain that comes out of it, just like the Mexican poppy, is used for ringworm, for scabies, and for fungal infections. It's also used to treat insect bites, rashes, and irritations. You know, when we were young, growing up, we didn't know about, you know, a lot of these ointments and creams. Our grandparents would just get these plants and get this sap, and they would just take their finger and just tip it on it and rub it on the little ringworm or rub it on the little scabies, and it would just perish away. Right? So this is one of those plants, the cassava marble. Um, in addition to its wound healing and skin care benefits, it's also anti-inflammatory. So the leaves are heated and they are applied as poultice to relieve joint pain, arthritis, and swelling. They're also used for muscle aches, back pain, and rheumatism. Right? So for persons, so we looked at quite a number of plants, Cynthia, that has been used for. I don't know if you're seeing any overlapping yet, but we're seeing a lot of wound care. We're seeing a lot of um, we're seeing a lot of anti-inflammatory. A lot of these herbs that we've used so far, nearly all of them are anti-inflammatory. Um, Most of them help with the skin, right? And so just make a note of them like that. So write down inflammatory. So under plant number one, inflammatory, antibacterial, antifungal. Um, uh, um, Write down those, we call them plant actions, right? So we're going to look at the plant actions and see which of those plant actions keep repeating themselves. And then that is going to give us an idea as to what are some of the potential ailments right there in the lip, right? So cuts, wounds, boils, ulcers. We see plants repeating that for scabies, skin conditions. We see that we see that those actions being repeated. We see anti-inflammatory being repeated. So arthritis, joint pain, swelling. We see those actions being repeated. All right. See those actions being repeated. See those actions being repeated. All right. So let's look at some more actions. Respiratory health. Cassava marble is also good for coughs, colds, and bronchitis. So it's an expectorant as well. And it's also good for the urinary tract. Urinary health. It's good for menstrual regulation, and urinary tract infection. So again, we see that all these plants are repeating itself. It's also a blood purifier. So it's used to remove toxins from the body. All right. So that's the cassava marble. Let's look. All right, pain. Yeah, so we see those conditions keep repeating. So we know that it's good for conditions like those. All right, the next herb that we're gonna look at is a herb that is well known. It's well popular. As a matter of fact, this is a herb that um I featured it because of its benefit, but and it's a herb that grows naturally in this area too. So I'm not gonna say that it because I know the era, I know Lilliput before it was developed, and so I know that this herb, along with a cousin of it, grows a lot in Lilliput. A lot, it grows a lot in Lilliput, and the herb, this herb is has been shot to fame because of its use as it relates to cancer. This herb has been shot to fame because of the amount of research that has gone into it. So we don't have to spend too much time on it. But when we were there, we saw this plant, and it's a soursop, right? And one of its most noted property is the fact that it's is its cancer and anti-tumor properties, right? So it has what is called acetogenins, which have potential anti-cancer effects. And so a lot of studies have been gone into it, especially those cancers that are tumors. They seem to potentially become more affected by it more because of the acetogenins, these plant chemicals that do not support the growth of tumors. It's used as teas and extract to support immune health and detoxification. As I said, apart from that, it boosts the immune system, so it helps to reduce fever. It also helps to relieve pain and inflammation. So you can pretty much get the leaves and apply it as a poultice to joint pain, arthritis, and muscle aches. It's also good for headaches and back pain and neuralgia. It has benefit for the gut, so there's digestive and gut health benefits. And we're talking about the fruit now. The fruit and leaves help with indigestion, bloating, and constipation. and traditionally it has been used to relieve diarrhea and dysentery. It doesn't have a very pleasant flavor, odor, and so most herbs that don't have a pleasant odor tend to be very good herbs for helping to get rid of worms. So it's a natural dewormer, right? It has respiratory health benefits, so it helps with coughing, asthma, and bronchitis. And then, of course, it's a good blood sugar and blood pressure regulator. So traditionally, soursop are known as it called graviola. Sorry, is used to lower blood pressure and improve circulation. Some studies also suggest that it may help regulate blood sugar levels in diabetic persons. Right, so ton of benefits there of the soursop, and another noted benefit is that it's good for the nerves. So it supports nervous system. It's a natural sedative. It's a mild sedative that helps persons who are having insomnia and anxiety, and it helps with stress relief and calming the nervous system. So you can use a tea, and it helps with calming and relieving the nervous system. All right, so we're gonna do one more herb, and this was a herb that I wanted to focus on because this is another herb that, again, after tonight's show, and I want you to share this with as many persons as you can. After tonight's show, I believe that this herb will get the well-deserving respect that it needs. And this herb is a herb that is found not only in Lilliput, but let me see, nearly all the roadway coming down to Montego Bay. I see it. In St. Thomas, I see it. I don't see any of it between Portland and St. Thomas. Right? So I don't see it anywhere between Portland and St. Thomas. But once you're leaving St. Thomas to go to Kingston, you're going to see a lot of this herb. Right? You're going to see a lot of this herb. And this herb is traditionally one of the best herbs for type 2 diabetes. This herb is so good that one of its potential side effects, one of the things that as herbalists we warn you about, is that it has the potential of lowering your blood sugar way below what you would want it to be. So this is a herb that I strongly recommend because it has been used for years in many cultures for helping with diabetes. It's widely used in the Caribbean. It's widely used in Central and South America. It's also widely used in Africa. It's known in Africa. It's used in Asia. And it is valued for its anti-diabetic, anti-inflammatory, and diuretic properties. The leaves, the flowers, and the barks are commonly used in traditional medicine. And I'm going to put it up on the screen because I want you to see it, because this is a herb that is called yellow elder. It's bitrish. Again, if you look at the flower, you can see that it's yellow, so it's good for the urinary tract system. We're going to go through the profile of this herb. But this is a herb that has been traditionally combined with cinnamon. So you combine this herb with cinnamon, and you're looking at one of the most powerful herb for lowering blood sugar. One of the most powerful herb for lowering blood sugar. I'm going to leave it on the screen there. It is one of the most well-known used. Well, as it's not well-known, but it's one of the most well-known uses is its natural remedy for diabetes. That's one of the reasons why it's most known. It's very good in lowering blood sugar levels. Apart from its anti-diabetic properties, it's also an excellent herb for the kidney. It acts as a diuretic, promoting urine flow and cleansing the kidneys, and it's also used for urinary tract infection. And when I saw this plant in Lilliput, I had to feature it because I've never featured it before, and I know that it's a very good herb. It's also very good for digestive health, stomach pain, and bloating, and it's used as a mild laxative to relieve constipation. It's used to support the immune system as well, and so it has the ability to reduce fever. It also can be applied to poultice, as a poultice, sorry, for joint pain and arthritis and muscle aches. It has pain relieving properties as well. And another benefit of this plant is that it is used to support heart health, and it's also used to regulate blood pressure. Right? So imagine the amount of persons out there who have diabetes and high blood pressure. And here is this plant that's been traditionally used. Has been traditionally used for these two conditions that are so prevalent in Jamaica. That's plant number 7. It's about 10 plants. But my throat is a little dry. So I'm going to break there. We looked at, let me see if we can look at, because this thing is not playing. Hold on.
So I'll talk about the medicinal use of this nice latex juice that it produces. And as I said, this
Let me see if I can
is
speed it up to some more plants that we look.
Maxi Priest and Shower. I'll share the content video.
Oh, strong back. Thank you very much, Cynthia. Strong back. Now, strong back is a herb that I love that herb so much. I love that herb so much because it is a herb that I like the taste, I like the flavor, and it's very good, especially for back pain. Let me see if I can find hopefully next week, guys, I'll be in a better position to do what I'm doing. I'm not going to use the video because I realize that the video, so those persons, you can just go and watch the video, and then you can come and we can review the plants. But I'm going to review them not using the video. I'm going to review them using pictures, because that way you'll get a very good look at the plant. Let me see. I'm trying to find a picture of this plant because so many persons Let me use this one. So many persons don't know it. So many persons don't know this herb. But this is a herb that's very good for back pain. All right? Very good for back pain. It's used to relieve constipation and improve digestion. And it has been traditionally used for stuff like dysentery. Let me. Good night, Carol. Let me just bring this up and let me ask some questions. Uh, where is it now? This is the Morinda Royak. Right, so this is what this plant looks like. So strong back. So the part that we use is the root. So what we would do is that we would dig it up and we would use the root. Let me see if I can find a picture of the root. What it looks like when you dig it up. It's almost, it looks, the roots is actually identical to noni. So if you don't know this herb, for example, and somebody were to harvest it for you, if you don't know noni, they could sell a noni root, or they could give you a noni root, and you don't know the difference. So when you unearth it, then the root has this thick, fleshy pulp on it. That is basically what you take off. Right? That is what you take off. Let me see if I can get a picture of what it looks like. Get a picture of what the root looks like. And basically this is what we use. So when you boil it, it's red. Somebody's I'm coming. So this is what the root looks like. That's what the root looks like. Right? That's what the root looks like. So when you dig it up, it comes up, and you wring it, and when you turn it, when you turn the root, that fleshy pulp comes out the root, and that's pretty much what you use. So it's red, pretty red when you boil it. For the diabetes plant, I think that's what you're asking, Ernesto. For the diabetes plant, which is this one, that diabetes plant, it's called Tecoma stance. Let me type. If you watch the video, all the videos, the scientific name and the common name is there. So that is a scientific name, Tecoma stance, or yellow elder. And as I said, it's one of the best herbs out there for diabetes, traditionally, because it lowers the blood sugar, similar to how Cersei works, but it's even stronger. Lowers the blood sugar, and the potential danger is that it can bring the blood sugar low. So for persons who are diabetic, one of the caution or the consideration that one must have is that excessive use may cause low blood sugar in diabetics. So it's about being balanced. Excessive use can cause low blood sugar, even for diabetic persons. All right? So you want to be careful how you use it. All right? Tecoma stance. That's the scientific name. Tecoma stance. All right? Anybody else have any question? While we are looking at this herb, which is the Morinda royak. All right? So that's it. Morinda royak. And Morinda royak is considered a natural blood purifier and used for general detox. So it's used for that. And by the way, this is a herb that loves marl. Loves marl. It loves Tony style. The leaf of the I've never the leaf of this um the Morinda roya, it's used to lower fever. Right? So it's used to lower fever. And you can also crush the leaves and you can apply them to joints for pain. Um, that's mostly what you can use it for. And I know that it also helps with the root, also helps with menstrual regulation. So the leaves and the roots are applied to wounds, boils, and skin infection to speed up healing. And they are also used for eczema, rashes, and insect bites. So the leaves can be used for that, but the root is the part that we typically use. Right? That's the part that we typically go for. So that is the. Cynthia says that I know we would put salt on it and eat it. Oh, the leaves. Okay, you would have. I didn't know that. Put salt on the leaves. So how does it taste, Cynthia? No, I never tasted the leaves. What does it taste like? And then let me know what was the next plant. So this is plant number 8. What was the next plant? Plant number 9. What was it, Cynthia, again? Plant number 9. Because after I walked, I went and saw about a few more plants. Oh, the leaf of no, was the leaf? We saw a leaf of life. No, we didn't see leaf of life. Which other plant did we see? I think we saw 3 or 4 more plants in the video. Anybody watch the video? All right, let me see if we can
Just continuing, as you can see, basically we're seeing a repeat of the cat's tongue. Now we're seeing some Piedra, right? And Spanish needle. And of course, Santa Maria Fica Few and Spanish needle. That's what we're seeing.
Oh, Nordweed. Right. So the next thing that we saw was the Nordweed. Now, Nordweed, when you look at Nordweed, you can when you look at it, you can see that it has those little flower. So you know that it's also good for the urinary tract system. So that is one of the features that we see a lot with the plants that we looked at. We saw a lot of urinary situations. So Nordweed is good as a diuretic. So it's a diuretic. It's used for urinary tract infection. As a matter of fact, as I'm talking, when you think about it, a lot of the plants we looked at now, they had yellow flower in them. A lot of the plants that we looked at in Lilliput, most of them had a yellow flower. And so Nordweed is predominantly used for the urinary tract system because it's a diuretic. It helps with kidney stones. It helps with water retention or edema in the legs. It's used predominantly to support the kidney or kidney function. All right. It's also considered a liver tonic, helping to protect the liver. It was also traditionally used for jaundice, for hepatitis, and general liver detoxification. So it is a blood purifier. That's it, the Nordweed. Um, it's also somewhat slightly a mild laxative, so it helps to relieve constipation as well. And then it also helps with indigestion and bloating. To a lesser extent, it helps to regulate blood sugar levels in diabetics as well. And it improves insulin sensitivity, or believed to improve insulin sensitivity, I should say. It also helps with reducing fever, and it helps to boost the immune system. So it has a ton of health benefits, but primarily, predominantly, it's used for the kidney. It's used to support the kidney. So it's predominantly a kidney medicine. All right, Nordweed. All right. What was the next herb? Any question you have, guys? Any question? Any question as it relates to the herbs that we've looked at? What was the next herb, Cynthia, after Nordweed? What was the next herb after Nordweed? All right. Nordweed. After Nordweed, I don't remember what was the next herb. Snake waste. And we didn't feature snake, which we mentioned snake waste. I want to talk about snake waste in another episode. Um, Focus on snake waste. But we went all the way down, and after a while, what we started to see was the plants repeating themselves. I saw two herbs. I don't remember what those two herbs was. All right, so I'm gonna stop there. Next week Sunday, if you watch the video, and we'll start off by looking at those two herbs. Um, Tonight was very active, and oh, chamba bitter. We didn't talk about chamba bitters that much because we featured chamba bitters before. Wild lettuce, thank you. Wild lettuce. That's another herb that I wanted to talk about, because that's another herb that um does not get a lot of attention. Tonight I really wanted to talk about these herbs, because these are some very powerful herbs that don't get the attention, or the respect that I believe that they should get. And these are very powerful herbs. So wild lettuce has been used traditionally in Europe. It has been used by the Native Americans. It has been used in the Caribbean. It has been used in African herbal medicine. And one of the most powerful, one reason I focus on, I wanted to highlight this herb, is that first of all, it is a vegetable, right? So when it is young, it is a vegetable. Let me see if I can find it. Guys, put your hands. I want you to put some hands for Cynthia. Cynthia is really a support. Cynthia, I wonder if Cynthia can help me be a moderator for this show. Cynthia, you have been phenomenal. Come on, give me some hand claps for Cynthia, man. Cynthia has really helped me tonight in an unofficial capacity. She has really been a major help tonight. Thank you so very much, Cynthia. So wild lettuce is the next herb that I want us to look on. It is a vegetable when it is young, right? It is a vegetable when it is young. And as it matures, it's more of a medicinal plant. And this particular plant is powerful as it relates to. Thank you, Ivan. Thank you, Ivan. Come on. Thank you, Ivan. Come on, people. Let's give Cynthia some more hand clap, man. She has really helped us tonight. Thank you, Ivan. Anybody else? Come on, guys. Come on. Help me show Cynthia some love. Carlton. Ernesto, if you're there still. I think Ernesto is on Facebook. Carl is on Facebook. Jeremy, if you're still there. We're streaming live on Facebook and we're streaming live on our YouTube channel. By the way, our YouTube channel is ICM TV. So if you're wondering what video is he talking about, you can go and check out our YouTube channel, ICM TV. That's where the video was posted. All right? That's where the herb walk was posted. So the review that we're doing now is based on the herb walk that we had. So that's what Cynthia watched. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. 17 Collins. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Cynthia. We really appreciate you. So, wild lettuce is the next plant that I want us to look at. Now, wild lettuce, as I said, is a vegetable when it is young, but as it gets older, it becomes more medicinal. It has a sap in it as well. It has a sap in it. And the sap that it has, that's what it looks like. That's what it looks like when it is more of a food. And then I'm going to let you see now what it looks like when it becomes more medicinal. Right? So plants are very much like human beings in a sense, in that they go through stages of development just like us. So they go through stages of infancy and they mature, and when they mature, they become adults. And when they become adults, what happens is that they develop sexual reproductive organs. And once they develop sexual reproductive organs, then they leave that infancy or that young stage and they become adult, and so they become more medicinal. So this is what the adult plant looks like when it matures. Now, when it matures, the leaves are a bit more bitterish. Stems and the leaves are a little more hard, they're hardier. And these are mechanisms that are built in the plant to discourage us from eating it. Because again, if you were to eat it as a vegetable, it wouldn't affect you. Right? If you were to eat it in this form, it wouldn't affect you because the chemicals in it are not that strong, so it would affect your liver. And so wild lettuce is a natural painkiller. So traditionally, it is used to relieve headaches, joint pain, muscle pain, and menstrual cramps. It is sometimes called opium lettuce because it has a lot of opioids in it. All right? It also has natural sedatives in it. So for people, it's used a lot for people who have headaches. helps them with pain, and it helps them with sleeping. It's good for the nervous system. So it is primarily used to treat, traditionally, it is primarily used to treat insomnia, restlessness, and anxiety. It is used also for persons who are suffering from night terrors or hyperactivity. A lot of those older persons who have problems like that, this is one of the best herbs that has been used traditionally. And it has a number of ailments, but I'm going to stick to that one. I can tell you that it's good for these ailments. There are some cautions to consider though. It's mildly toxic in high doses, so it can cause drowsiness, dizziness, or nausea. And of course, it should not be used during pregnancy or by people with low blood pressure, because it also tends to lower the blood pressure. And the sap that comes out of it can also be irritating to the skin for certain persons. All right, so I believe we looked at, I believe we covered all the plants that we looked at today. In next week's video, we're gonna go back to nonsuch. I was there today. It was breathtaking. It was. You're going to see the videos. Some videos coming out for nonsuch. And nonsuch, by the way, is a rural community here in Portland that it's like a hidden gem. I really want to share some of these. So I'm planning some weekend herb walks, just 1 day herb walks, where persons can just come, because for nonsuch we're planning to do a waterfall. Nonsuch, by the way, has the highest waterfall in the Caribbean. Highest waterfall in the Caribbean is in this community. I want to show you what it looks like. Today I went there and I looked at just one of the simple waterfalls, a simple pool, and trust me, guys, it was breathtaking. I want to share some of these experiences with you, and chances are we get a chance to meet some of you guys. Love to meet Cynthia. Cynthia, tell me, where are you again? Where in the world are you? Seval, tell me, where in the world are you? Where are you guys? Are you abroad? Are you in Jamaica? Let me see where you are. Are you in Jamaica, or are you outside of Jamaica? So I'm planning to do a herb walk. I know who, where are you? Where are you, Cynthia? I've done one with Ernesto. So Ernesto has visited me in Jamaica. We've done a herb walk before, but not a proper herb walk. That was just like a, what do you call it now? That's a regular herb walk. This one is I'm planning these, so they are going to be much more not only educational, but they are going to be a lot of fun as well. Portland has so many natural. Oh, you're in the all right. So Cynthia, oh, you're in Colorado, and Colin's in Virgin Islands, and Ivan is in Canada. Okay. All right. So some of you will have to join us on the video, but I hope I'm gonna post some dates for some of these herb walks, and then you get the chance to look at the dates and let me know when you can come, and I'll bring you to some of these locations, and we have some nice food and enjoy ourselves. A lot of these areas have rivers, rivers that are so pristine and beautifully constructed naturally, that it's just a blessing to be a part of it. Anyway, guys, I want to thank you for being on. I'm sorry I wasn't as prepared as I would want to be, but I hope that enough information was shared and that you learned, and you gathered you learned something you didn't know, and that so tonight we would have looked at about, I think, how many plants, Cynthia? 8 or 10 plants. And I did ask you, did you see what were some of the overlapping conditions that you see coming from these plants, Cynthia? What were some of these overlapping conditions? Okay, 17 Collins have a lot of yellow cedar, a lot of rice and peas bush. All right, so Joy, Yvonne Joy is in Canada. 17 Collins is in the Virgin Islands, and Cynthia is in Colorado. All right, right. So we saw a lot of so from the plants that we looked at in Lilliput, we saw a lot of yellow flowers. So we saw a lot of persons potentially having a lot of kidney issues in there in Lilliput. It's telling me that a lot of kidney issues are there in Lilliput. A lot of diabetic conditions are there. A lot of ailments as it relates to wound care, maybe because of the group of diabetic persons, a lot of antibiotic, 9 plants, antifungal antibiotics. We saw a lot of antibiotic, we saw a lot of plants for antibacterial, antifungal conditions there. So that tells us also that potentially there are a lot of antiviral, antifungal conditions. We saw a lot of plants that also overlapped as it relates to benefiting wound care. So potentially there are a lot of wounds that that are high in that area, and I would know because I've never had a clinic in Lilliput. But usually when we go and plan our clinics, we see a lot of these conditions manifesting itself. All right, so we saw. Let me just go back one. So we saw a lot of. Hold on. All right. So Cynthia says that we have a lot of anti-inflammatory, painkillers, parasitics. So these are some of the conditions. So if you're watching, we also saw digestive issues. So guys, if you know anybody in Montego Bay in the Lilliput area, then these are some of the conditions that are going to be high in these areas. These are some of the plants that are responding to those ailments. Plants usually go in response to the need that man have for them, right? And so again, when I drive, looking back at the yellow elder, for example, when I drive from St. Thomas to from Portland to St. Thomas, in between there are a lot of empty lands. But when you start to drive from Morant Bay to Kingston, on the fringes of those on the road, you'll find a lot of people living, and so you'll find a lot of potentially diabetic persons. It's just amazing to see how these plants grow. So we saw respiratory issues as well. A lot of respiratory issues, asthma. Right? And I should say, next week, thank you so much, Cynthia. Next week when we come back, I'll be having a guest from our Institute of our International Guild of Indigenous Caribbean Medicine. So we've started a herbal guild, and we're gonna start out by talking about what are some of the goals. Now, in our class, it's not just so. I see where 17 Collins. I plan to take your class, but I have to save up. Now, how my classes are structured, you don't have to save. So if I were to connect with you, and what I'm going to say to you, I'm limited in terms of how many persons I can do this with. So what we do basically, and you'll find some of them coming on next week. So how my courses offered is that it's not just online. It's offered in 3 ways. So one is online. That's where you do the theoretical, structural, systematic part of it. That's where you do that. It's online. That is structured, it's systematic. All right. So you go through that. But then we have what is called our mentorship program. Now, our mentorship program allows persons to earn and learn at the same time. So, like right now, we're looking to train somebody in St. Thomas so that you can earn and learn at the same time. We have persons in New York who are earning and learning. We have persons in Florida who are earning and learning. And how that works is that, say, for example, you're in where? You're in the Virgin Islands, I think. 17 Collins. That's right. That's where you say you are. Yes, the Virgin Islands. So let us say you're in the Virgin Islands. We don't have anybody in the Virgin Islands right now. What happens is that I work through my students. So there's a machine that I will guide you to purchase. And then what happens now, when I have persons in the Virgin Islands that I need to see, I can work through you to see all the persons that I need to see in the Virgin Islands. So I can work through you as my proxy through telemedicine services. There's a machine that we use that once you get one of those machines, it allows me now to use you like I have a clinic there. And so what happens is that through that medium, you are able to earn, and I'm able to earn. And then how that has helped me is that because of what is happening, I can't be a primary. I can't offer primary care attention anymore to persons. So I've had to use this approach because I do so many things. So I can't offer primary care attention to anybody. I have to offer care through somebody. So what I'll do is if I have a student in Kingston, once somebody reaches out to me in Kingston and say, oh, they want to be a part of our program, I immediately schedule a consultation, a three-way, with myself, with the person, and with that student. Or I will send the student to the person as on a house visit to bring the machine so that I can now see that person. All right, so the person earns by doing that. And then that person is the one that does a follow-up. So anything that the client wants to know goes through that person to me. And so that student now is getting first-hand experience. Everything that I have to say to the client is through the student. So the student is benefiting from first-hand experience, first-hand knowledge. And not only that, if I need to make a medicine for that particular client, even if the student hasn't reached that far in the course, there is a module that where the person would learn to do that. But if tomorrow you found somebody and that person needed a compound, then what I would do is I would have to teach you how to make it for that client. So you're learning through mentorship. So mentorship is one. Why you're doing that? But remember, because it's mentoring. It's not structured. It's not systematic. It's based on the need that arises there and then. So we have to have a structured component. That is what is online. And then now we have these workshops and seminars where you will come in and then information is disseminated in that way. So the training is done through three ways. And I prefer, I love the mentoring component because traditionally that is how persons were taught herbs. It wasn't on a class, it wasn't just online. And while at the same time, we don't want to disregard the tools of modern innovation because it can be used, but it can't be used necessarily as a substitute. It can be used to help as a supplement, not as a substitute to that experience. And so those are the three ways in which it is done. So because of the mentoring component, then I have to be careful because I don't have a lot of, naturally I wouldn't have a lot of time or be able to mentor too many persons. So I'm always looking for persons who are interested and persons who would value, because in the past I think I was a bit too um, because I'm passionate and because I want to help persons, In the past I made commitments to person who don't understand that when I make a commitment, it's really a commitment. So if they're not really interested, if they don't value my time, I have to now give that time to somebody else who does value it. So I've come up with a system of determining how somebody values that time. All right. So as I said, next week we'll talk about it. Thank you for being on, guys. It was a pleasure having you on, and please share the video with somebody. Until next time, until next week, have a wonderful evening. Good night.